Okay, this may be better.
Okay. So I'm actually going into statistics. That's my major. Do you do anything with statistics as well?
Well, so I was never trained in statistics,
Mm-hmm.
but I've been spending a considerable amount of time of late
Mm-hmm.
actually learning statistics and using statistics.
Okay.
So it's a recent development.
Do you think it was difficult, like going down that track with mathematics and statistics?
No, I think actually I underestimated the potential of statistics. So when I started looking at what one could do, the natural, rather a recurring thought was, why on earth did I not realize that this is so important? Or how did I
Yeah.
manage so far?
Yeah, I know definitely I try to tell a lot of people about like statistics and how important it is, and I just don't think everybody realizes how it kind of is involved in basically everything.
It is, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So you're a professor at Michigan, right, for their data science program?
I'm at University of Michigan Dearborn.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, at University of Michigan Dearborn, and I started, or I actually was. We have a data science program
Mm-hmm.
now at Dearborn, and I was one of the key people in getting it started there.
Oh, wow.
Uh, so this is the first semester that we are offering it, um, fall 2016, and within the math stat department, we actually have a new course
Wow.
geared towards essentially getting in people who have no background in data science or statistics. So we are looking at um, what a person educated in the 21st century should look like
Yeah.
in terms of being data literate.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of classes would they take in the program to be data literate?
So if you usually with data science, you have there are three pillars of data science, and one can disagree on it. The correct statement actually should be four pillars. So one would be mathematics, the other would be statistics, computer science, and the fourth being what we call domain knowledge.
Okay. So what is domain knowledge? Because I've heard all the other three.
Yes. So domain knowledge is, for example, if you're going to apply data analytic tools, say in healthcare, say in medicine, then if you don't know the vocabulary of healthcare, the vocabulary of medicine, what is acceptable in that field and what is not acceptable in that field, then you will draw conclusions which are very, very incorrect. So you have to understand the vocabulary and the background of the domain to which you're going to apply your expertise. So that becomes extremely important. For example, if you see, this will be a rather depressing example, but nonetheless, suppose you see, you're making bulbs, and out of 1,000 bulbs, four bulbs, and this you're actually familiar with this because of your training in statistics. Suppose four bulbs are, dysfunctional.
Yeah.
You would be okay with it, possibly. But if you say, okay, out of 1,000 people, four people have AIDS, so I've done a fantastic job. Now that would not be acceptable, correct?
Yeah.
So looking at the domain that you are in, what is acceptable in one field will not be acceptable in another field.
Okay.
So you have to have good grounding in domain.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, I haven't really like read any articles that actually talk about having domain knowledge. It's always been like computer science, math, statistics, engineering, like stuff like that.
Yes.
So at the program, how many people do you guys have? I know this is your first year, but how many people did you have like apply, and how many did you actually accept?
I don't have statistics on how many people applied, and there could be various reasons. One is I don't have the statistics, and the other is even if you have the statistics, it may be slightly misleading in the beginning, because it is not necessarily the case that people apply into the data science program at the very beginning. They may choose to major in data science at a later stage, after a year or something like that. So the numbers may be either small or large. Right now, in the very first offering, it's a very, very small class, as I know. There were just 7 students.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just 7 students, but these things tend to grow rather rapidly. So when we started the statistics curriculum class, last year we had 2 students only. Just 2.
Wow.
Okay. Now that is 18.
Oh, wow. And that was just a year's difference?
Yes.
Oh, that's really good.
In 1 year. So it takes a little bit of time for things to show up on the websites, for the word to spread. People talk to faculty members and they become aware.
Yeah.
So this thing grows very, very rapidly.
So do you expect the program to, like, in the future continually do better and have more people in it?
Yes. I'm fairly confident. If for some reason it does not happen, that would be a surprise. But that's my understanding, that the numbers will show up very rapidly.
Wow.
Yes.
Good. Why do you think that, like, not as many people go into data science or that type of field anyways? Like, do you think people just think it's too hard?
I think it's about familiarity with the field. They don't know the field as yet. And there's a challenge that is there in front of the data scientists to distinguish the field from computer science or from statistics. If you ask somebody, what is the distinction? What is it that you do in data science which is different from what a computer scientist does or what a statistician does? Then that can be a slightly challenging task. So that is one reason why people don't quite know the field. And the other is give 3 or 4 years, I think people will start talking about it, because lots of times people are informed by their parents or their friends. And parents will be very familiar with mechanical engineering, statistics, biology, medicine, law. But data science, even the terminology is very recent.
Yeah, everything that I was researching, they were just saying how data science is very recent, and, like, in the past years, it just hasn't been a huge deal as it is now, and how it will keep growing, basically.
That's correct. In fact, the term data science was coined at the University of Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Yes, you can just Google that and you'll find out. The professor who coined it is now at, I think it's at Georgia Tech, and he came up with this terminology for the first time ever during a seminar. And then after that, it was rejuvenated at some level during, I think it was a Twitter conversation, where they felt that they needed to have the word data and science together, and hence the word data science came about.
I think that's so cool. Because, I don't know, I just feel like when all my friends ask me, they're like, oh, you want to be a data scientist? They have absolutely no idea what that even means. And when I first came to college, I had no idea what it even was. I went and talked to my academic advisor, and she was like, oh, like, why don't you think about data science? I literally asked, I go, what is data science?
Yes.
And now that I've researched everything, I think it's so interesting and so cool.
So does MSU have a program in data science already?
No, we just, like, right now I'm in my undergrad, so I'm just majoring statistics, and so I was actually researching some schools that had, like, a graduate data science program, and that's how I came across the one at U of M Dearborn.
Yes. Dearborn has an undergraduate program which is already running, up and running. We are sending out the master's program this year. Ann Arbor has an undergraduate program. They are going to start a master's program as well, but that's not completely done. Another master's program is at Michigan Tech. They have an up and running program now. There's something at Central Michigan. I have a list, but yeah, okay.
Have all those other programs been like? Are those also just very recent too? Like they haven't been there for a while?
Almost all programs are fairly recent. If you give yourself 5 years, there were no programs with that name by and large. So all of them are fairly recent.
Is there a way, like, have you learned from other programs? Like, have you kind of, I guess, communicated to other schools and how to help run your data science program? Or did you just kind of start from scratch and just kind of went with it?
No, you look at what other schools are doing, you talk to other people, but an honest admission is that we did less of that work when we were coming up with the degree that time, because we had a reasonable idea, and that time the scope of things was geographically local. The focus was say Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. We were very geographically we had a very narrow vision there. But after that, I was a part of a committee which was looking at undergraduate curriculum on data science nationally. So we wanted to make recommendations for all universities as to what would be a good program. It's actually going to be published in 1 or 2 months. And it is during that process that I really got to see what over 40 campuses, meeting them in flesh and blood to talk to them about what their challenges are.
That's kind of cool. How long is like a normal data science program? Like how many years?
Well, it's an undergraduate degree, so it would be just like any other program. So depending on the campus, for us, we have 120 credits.
Oh wow!
120 credits, but that encompasses everything. What we call, your distribution requirements. We call it Dearborn Discovery Core or things like that. Other places will have other names for it. It's a standard. It's a standard set of
because I know some schools with the master's data science program. It said they were only about 2 to 3 years. So I didn't know if that was like the same as like undergrad or.
Master's program can be either 1 year or 2 years.
Okay.
The undergraduate programs, you have to have a regular full slew of courses. So the 1 year programs are lots of times what you call professional masters. So they are very, very fast paced. You pack a lot. The emphasis is on actually getting people to do some projects so that they have something tangible to show to a future employer. And then there are 2 years master's programs as well. Masters, you cannot dedicate as much time. And students come with the context. They understand things already. Here we are trying to, undo high school at some level.
Yeah.
Make sure that they understand calculus and all the rest. But there's a lot that has to be done.
Besides like the whole like computer science, stats, math, besides all that knowledge, do you think there are some certain characteristics a person needs to be a very good data scientist?
Problem solver.
Yeah.
Problem solver. You absolutely have to be a problem solver. It's critical thinking will be important. So I think these two will carry you through at some level. If you are a problem solver, then you know how to, given a task. One of the important things is in lots of areas you know what you want at the end. In data science, there are different kinds of questions you can ask, but in some questions you may not even know what you're looking for. Because somebody just comes and drops a ton of data at your desk. Nobody's dropping data, but you get the idea, right? They just say, here, look at these. I have so much data available. Why don't you look at this and come up with some worthwhile information? or knowledge out of this data. So it's not that the knowledge was not there, it was there, but it is for you to find out, but you don't know what to go looking for. So so that becomes a challenge, and there you really are going to spend your time trying to try various pairings, various combinations, and see what talks to you.
Interesting. Is the not necessarily the curriculum, but basically like the technology in data science, is it kind of always going to be updating and changing, and so someone also necessarily would have to be a fast learner, would you say?
Oh, absolutely, I think. Yes. What we can, for example, what you can do today, you might not have been able to do 10 years back. And that's the reason why there is a resurgence, or there is this emphasis in data science. A lot of the algorithms which drive data science at the core has not necessarily changed. You will see, therefore, there's this ongoing tussle in the statistics community, because they're like, hang on, what you're teaching and calling data science is what we call statistics. So it is just statistics. But the difference is that this is statistics with a very high computing power available, brought to bear. So earlier you would deal with small size samples, you look at a lot of statistics data sets which are presented in class, and they'll be about these petals and sepals and, or flowers or species of fish and all that, and there'll be like 100 such data points. It's a joke. Nobody's going to deal with 100 data points anymore today, because you can collect so much data. So that is a big difference. The domains to which you apply is also changing rapidly, because now you can apply it to those domains. If you think of within data science, there are two large fields. One is what is called machine learning, and there's another area which is called artificial intelligence, AI. These two are highly influenced by the engineering side of data science, and then you have the whole statistics side of it. And AI, you will see, is going to play a very, very significant role. For example, all the autonomous cars are coming because of AI, where the machines are now being taught to teach themselves, and that requires very high computing power.
So do you think the computing side of it, would you say more difficult to understand and kind of know how to use, rather than the statistics side of it?
I don't think there's either one wins over the other. To be a good data scientist, you will have to understand the two things equally well. That's the only way you will really make significant progress. As a functional data science, you could be good in just one and rely on somebody else, but then you're going to go to the person and ask for information every time you need something done. So if you want to be an independent and successful data scientist, you will really need to have both these skill sets under your belt.
So I know to become a good data scientist, you also need to have a lot of experience. So would you say that internships would be a good way for students to start off getting experience?
Yes, please. Yes.
Are there any specific, not specific internships, but for any big companies that you would recommend to your students?
And there's a whole slew of companies which are available. It depends on what kind of sector you want to work in. So in Michigan, there are 2 or 3 fields which have high demand. I'm talking about now, making a local statement, because so one is healthcare. So you have, for example, United Healthcare is there. There's another company called True One Health, which just got bought out by IBM.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the healthcare side of the picture. So you could intern at one of the hospitals or something like that. That's one aspect. The other is there's a lot of demand for data scientists who have knowledge in finance, financial consultants, and things like that. That's another. In fact, that was ranked very, very high in terms of demand. And I'm making very local statements to Michigan. The other is in the automotive sector. That's another area where there is significant demand. So I think what matters is getting an internship. You really get a sense of what data looks like. There's a very standard saying that in data science, you spend 90% of your time cleaning the data, and only 10% of your time actually running algorithms on it. So you are basically a glorified janitor of data. That's basically what you are. Or maybe, janitor is very coarse. Let me just call it curator. Okay. You're really a curator of data, right? So you're trying to find out, there could be a lot of these archaeological pieces which are there, and you're trying to see how to place them so that they tell a story, that you don't throw away anything which may be of importance, but you don't want to keep everything either. So you have to make that judgment call very, very carefully.
Okay. So after people graduate with an undergrad degree, like I'm going to statistics, or even from your program, what would be, I guess, the next step as for where people should go with their degrees, and what should they do?
My guess is they're looking for a job. So that would be the natural step to actually work in the field, to get a good sense of whether you enjoy it, you don't enjoy it, whether it really is your calling or not. And that is why internships are also important. They will give you a good sense of what works, and maybe one aspect of data science really works for you and another aspect does not work. But then if you have done internships, you will be able to fine tune and realign your focus and say, okay, this is what I want to invest my time and energy in. And once you have, it's a strangely interesting field, because you really at some level don't need formal education to be a good data scientist. It's almost like computer science. Some fields, if you want to be in medicine, you really have to go through the processes. If you want to go into law, you have to go through the processes. But if you want to go into computer science, you don't necessarily need to even have university education or even high school education at some level. There's no requirement. For example, if Apple is there, Apple has no requirement of your qualification to hire you. I know of friends who've been hired who've not had a high school degree.
Wow.
And who are extremely successful, because what they need is, can you think logically? Given a task, can you perform the task? Of course, they're not in a crowd of 100. You may find 2 such people. So it will not be. That is why universities are still there and are in business. My point I'm trying to make is not so much about education. It is about how you apply logical reasoning and programming languages and ask critical questions. So a degree in data science can only do so much for you. We can give you the tools, we can make you aware, but rest of it is up to you. So 2 students going out with the same degree may be in very, very different positions in terms of how successful they are. If somebody has really done worked on projects. If somebody has worked on projects really well, then they know how to handle things. Self-motivated, self-learners, they will be far more successful than others.
So you'd say experience is definitely a huge thing in getting used to everything.
It is extremely, extremely important, because you need to know what works and what does not work.
Okay. Why did you want to go into data science?
I think my story is very, very different. I actually was trained at an institute in India, which is called the Indian Institute of Technology. So that is like the hub of computer science education. So you look at all the people who come to Silicon Valley. I'm talking about people from India. Most of them have a background in that particular institute. And I was there as a math major, and I really looked down upon everybody who was doing any kind of computer science because I thought they'll be, begging for jobs. I didn't feel it was worth it. I did not feel it was a pure enough exercise. But when I was at Dearborn, a colleague of mine, we were working on a problem which had nothing to do with data science, and then, but we wanted to test some theory out, and he had a very strong background in computer science. So I would see him work through, I would say something, and before I could say it, he would test it. And he would be like, oh, this works. Oh, this does not work. So we would meet for 2 or 3 hours, and I would go back completely depressed because I was the mathematician, but he was the better mathematician because he was able to test my theories so quickly. So then I finally said, okay, I'm going to learn programming. I have to teach myself programming because that's a very important aspect of life. And then I started teaching myself programming. And this gentleman, this is a long-winded story. I think I'm not answering your question completely, but that's where the origin lies. This gentleman, he died while we were working on the project. And I think I, at some level, owed it to him that I learned how to program seriously. And he was just so passionate about it. In fact, he's the one who used to lead the University of Michigan Dearborn's robotics department. And he would take these students to these robotics competitions. And Dearborn, it's not an Arbor. We are well aware of that. Or it's not Carnegie Mellon. But the team would place in the top 1 or 2 positions. So they actually named the award after him. He was so passionate about teaching. So and in the whole process of trying to learn programming, I don't know if you're familiar with something called Coursera.
No.
Or edX. So these are what are called MOOCs, massive open online course offerings. These are online courses, and they became available in the last 4 or 5 years, where you can actually learn whatever you want to learn under the sun from the best instructors in the world. And so that was available, and then I started taking some courses in data science, and I was hooked. And
so once you started, you couldn't stop.
So what?
So once you started, you couldn't really stop.
I couldn't stop. Yeah. Yes, that is absolutely correct. So I had almost 2 jobs. One, I would be a professor in school, and I would come back home, and within 1 hour, I became a student till like 2 o'clock at night. I was working on my own assignments and my own courses and my own projects. Yeah, so I sat down and took 27 courses or 30 courses in a span of a year.
Oh, that's cool. All right.
Yeah.
I just have one more question.
Okay.
What would you say to anyone like me who wants to become a data scientist or go into data scientist? Like, what advice would you give them?
I think one would be get a good foundation. Make sure you're very comfortable with programming and statistics. And the other is keep your ears open to what is happening around you. For example, there are lots of forums that you could join, lots of websites that are there. Keep Googling away, trying to stay informed and aware of what is going on. There's a lot of learning that you can do, particularly if you don't have a formal program where you don't have 20 people talking about the same thing. Lots of times you learn passively also because your friend looked up something and the friend won't keep quiet, you learn.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't have that kind of community around you, then the onus is on you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I would strongly recommend. For example, there are websites like, oh my god, Kaggle,
Mm-hmm.
Kaggle. Kaggle is a website which is dedicated to data science.
Okay.
There are 2 or 3 languages that you need to master.
Mm-hmm.
One would be R for statistics.
Mm-hmm.
The other is Python.
Yeah, I hear a lot about those too.
Yes. So those 2, if you can really get them under your belt, then you are in really good position.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for letting
You're
me
welcome.
interview you. All right. They have a good day.
You too. Thanks, Haley. Bye-bye.